You might have heard that Mikey Herbert of Hellstorm, played Warhammer competitively. I know, it's been ages. It's been ages since I actually played Warhammer competitively. I built a list, which I was really, really proud of, that was definitely inspired with Nassim. Nassim's a legend, and he's a really good bloke. And we both have played Iron Hands for a long time. We both played Iron Hands last year. This year he's chumped out and decided to play Tau for some reason. And, you know, like, look where that's left him, you know? Playing Tau in the final of, like, a 700, 800 man event. And he's like, currently doing really well with Tau rather than Space Marines. But there you go. So I was really happy with the list, and I was really excited to play. I said I've not played competitively since No Retreat last year, where I came second, which is, like, weird because I've just been streaming and running events. I've been playing a lot of Age of Sigmar this year as well, which I've really enjoyed and done shit there. So I went back to my roots. I wanted to play some Iron Hands. So Iron Hands, the boys, you know. The game 3, I played a guy, and the game was mostly fine throughout the game. There was a couple of issues with like how the player was conducting themselves at the table, which I pulled them up on multiple times, such as little things like rolling dice behind buildings and rolling too many dice for attacks and not rolling enough dice for saves. But it wasn't enough that it was an issue, because stuff like that I can handle myself, you know. It's kind of like, call the player out, it's fine, you know. It's annoying, and these things happen, and people either get desperate or they really don't want to lose because they've already lost one, and all the teammates have not lost one, and they really want to come out with a 2-1 at the end of the day, and it gets stressful, and it's annoying. But there's like a really big situation that happened just before the round, which then caused an issue in my game. Because of that, I believe, this is a hearsay, but I believe because of the issue that caused probably my game, and it left me with a really, really sour taste in my mouth because of the situation. So I tweeted about it because I was annoyed. I wanted to say that I was well within my right to say that I was frustrated. Someone insinuated that I was throwing someone under a bus because of the situation for views and clicks, because they are, you know, they're just doing a job and they're just trying their best. But I left a comment and I left a reply, and I'm going to repeat that reply before I get into the situation, that if I worked at Starbucks and I went to Costa and they took a shit in my coffee, and I complained about it online, I'm well within my right to do that. Just because I work at Starbucks doesn't mean I can't complain about Costa. Okay? Anyway, so this game, there's a bit of a problem. The initial problem was time. So the round was supposed to start at 5. You probably heard the situation with certain players in round 2 where there was an argument about a score. You're probably quite aware of it. Essentially, there was 20 minutes wasted after the round trying to work out this resolution. So that's what I know, and that's what I saw. And I saw 5 judges around a table. But then the break was like 15 minutes. Like 2 minutes before the round was supposed to start, the pairings were called. I don't know if you've ever been to a large event, but there's hundreds of tables, and trying to find a table number in the panic of everyone else trying to find a table is difficult. By the time I got to my table, got the board set up, talked about my army with my opponent, we were about 20 minutes into the round. So that was an issue, but that meant we were using a chess clock. I use a chess clock in most tournament games. The only time I had an issue was this one, funnily enough. What happened was we both had an hour and 20 on the round, and obviously when you're playing in a tournament, you're on a chess clock, and there's our chess clock rules to follow, and a lot of people know what these chess clock rules are. They're quite common in tournaments, and if you go into a big tournament, you should make yourself aware of them, because some people might want you to use a clock. And there's nothing to be afraid of a chess clock. They are a good tool. They make games fair most of the time. Anyway, so we both were playing a little bit slow. It got to the start of round 3, I believe, and I took my turn, and I spoke to my opponent because they only had 3 minutes left on their clock, which is an issue. Now, there's a couple of points where they'd not turned their clock back over to me, so I was playing on their time, but it's both our responsibility to keep up with that. But I essentially let my opponent play on my time for quite a lot during the end, because they only had this little bit of time to go. So I was like, you know, I'm going to give you 5 minutes of my time, because I had like 12 minutes, I think, or something like that at this point. My opponent had like 3, and I was like, you can have it. And we played our turn. Then it got to the next turn, And there was like a situation, so they'd taken a secondary where if a character chooses another character of mine, and if they kill it, they get 15 points. Which is a very big secondary. It's like a Space Wolves and Blood Angels both have a very similar one. It's like kill it, you get 5 points. Kill it melee, 10 points. Kill it melee with the guy, 15 points. Very big. Anyway, my opponent had like 30 seconds left on the clock at the start of their turn. Well, maybe not 30 seconds, but like by the time they started moving, they had about 30 seconds. And I was like, Mr. Opponent, you've got 30 seconds left. And it's like, oh, well, you know, and I had like 5 minutes on the clock, and I'd given my opponent a lot of time at this point already. So I had about like 5 minutes left, maybe a bit more, but I was like, you've only got a few minutes left. And my opponent started to say that like, because we only had 5 minutes left in the round, or like 5 or 6 minutes left in the round, we don't enforce the clock because because one player doesn't have more than 30 minutes. You only enforce it if one player has loads of time left and the other person doesn't. And I was like, no, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. No, like if you run out of time, I get the rest of my 5 minutes and we keep playing. But you can't do anything but roll saves. And they were like, no, because of the fact that there's less than 30 minutes on one player's side, we just keep playing. I was just like, no. Anyway, as this was happening, a judge was walking past, and I called the judge over, and I said, excuse me, can you explain what we're on a clock? This player's just run out. Because at this point, by the time we argued, there's no time on the clock on my opponent's side. And I was like, excuse me, can you explain the chess clock rules to me? And they were like, what do you mean? I said, well, my opponent's run out of time, so you can tell them what happens now. Because in my opinion, in my head, I'm not gonna be like, excuse me, Mr. T.O., this man has no time, and you have to tell them off. I'm like, no, tell me what happens. Tell me to my face what happens when the chess clock runs out, and my opponent will hear that, and then they will understand that what they're saying is wrong. And then they said, well, if you run out of time, you can only roll saves, and you score points for where you're stood. And I was like, and I kind of looked at my opponent, and my opponent said, no, there's less than half an hour. I'm going to keep going, and carried on moving units. And I was like, no, he just said, that you can't. But as I said that, the judge walked away. Now, I don't know why they walked away. It could have been a multitude of reasons. They didn't want to argue with the player, but the player was basically saying, no, I'm going to keep playing, but they'd walked off. Didn't want to argue. That would be the worst case scenario. I really hope it wasn't. It could have been that because they explained the rule, they thought that was it and went, which is also fine. And it could have been a multitude of reasons, but it was kind of like, you know, this is how the chess clock rules work. Bye. So maybe they just didn't like realize the situation, but my opponent was telling the judge, no, I'm going to keep playing. It was kind of like, are you serious? So I called the judge again, didn't hear me. I was just like, what's happening here? You know, I've called the judge over and I've still got an issue, and you've just walked away. Anyway, so that happened, and I was like, look, Mr. Opponent, you've run out of time. You can't keep playing. However, I know how important your character killing my character is, so I will let you do those attacks on my time. So I let my opponent roll on my time to score an additional 15 points on this secondary. Obviously wipes out this character. And I was like, okay, so you score 15 points. You're out of time now. There's 3 minutes or 2 minutes on the clock now. I don't remember exactly how much. There's a couple of minutes on the clock. I'm going to play the rest of my turns. You are going to stand still and score points for primary and nothing else, because you can't do any others. Anyway, so I fell out of combat with everything. I jumped onto all the primary and beat this player by 3 points. I score everything on ITC battles, right? Basically, I have like a system, and it's kind of like when we're on battle reports, right? I'll be like, okay, I've had my turn. Primary, I've scored this. And then on the tertiary, I've scored this amount, because this is like the order on ITC battles, right? But like, as you can see, if we just go, this is from my RTT last week. So we go like, look, so it says control 1, control 2, control more. And we do that at the start of the turn. And I don't jump to secondaries or anything like that, but I'm always like, okay, so for this tertiary, how many points do we score? Okay, right, let's call to secondaries. How many do you score for this? How many do you score for this? How many do you score for this? And I do that at the end of every turn, and I'm quite like open about it, and I leave my phone unlocked on the table while I'm playing as well. The problem was then is because because I knew I could win just by holding points, I didn't play any of the rest of my turn, right? So I took Assassinate and stuff like that, you know, and like, no, I took Assassinate and no prisoners, right? And I think I took Shock Tactics at the same time. I don't need to play the game to win. I just need to stand on the point and hold the point and win. And I won by 3 points, because in this sort of tournament, when you've lost the game, it literally doesn't matter how many points you score. Like in my opinion, point scoring shouldn't matter in a tournament. It should just be wins and losses. And sometimes it isn't, especially when there's like multiple people who are going undefeated. But at this tournament, undefeated go on to play into the final. If you lose, you're playing 5 games going home anyway. So I don't care what my points are. I just wanted the win, which is, I don't think, unreasonable. Anyway, so then afterwards, like, my opponent was upset that they'd lost by 3 points and started to insinuate that I was cheating and not scoring the secondaries right, not scoring the tertiary right, and not scoring the secondaries right, and I'd not added their primary for a couple of turns. I was just like, no, I've not done it. How have I done this wrong? How have I done this wrong when we've gone through it every like turn? And I don't have my little paper anyway, but like you get like a little scoring booklet when you do go to these events. And this person, the only writing in this book is that person filling in the secondaries at the start of the game, but they're not bothering to keep track of the score and relying on me. And in my opinion, if you're going to rely on someone to keep score, you can't accuse them for not scoring it right at the end of the game. It was kind of bullshit. So anyway, I argued for a little bit, but the time's getting on. It was like 8:15. I've been playing Warhammer for like almost 9 hours. And I was just like, why are you trying to insinuate I'm a cheat, right? First you clock out and carry on playing. Then you insinuate, and the tier walks off, and then you insinuate I'm a cheater. And I just gave up. And I shouldn't have. I was annoyed. I was annoyed. I was tired and pissed off. And I was just like, you know what, mate? Just tell me how many points you got then. And it just so happens he's got 2 points more than me. And I was just like, just if it's that important to you, have it, you know? I shook the bloke's hand, and I was just like, great game. And I just left it as that. I was just like, I was so pissed off. I was hungry, I was tired, I just wanted to go home. Anyway, so obviously rightfully so, I was pissed off. I was being left in this situation after calling a judge to the table. I've been left with a situation with clearly a problematic player. And afterwards I was told by another friend of mine who was also at the event, had problems with that same person round 1. And I was just like, ugh, fucking hell. Like, so anyway, I went home. I went out with Jay, which was amazing. We had some food with loads of people from who are watching now, which is awesome, and loads of other people as well. There's loads of nice people. I had a great dinner anyway. Anyway, in the morning, I woke up, and I was still pissed off, rightfully so. I was still angry. I was still angry about it. So you know what I did? I did what everyone does when they're angry. Tweet. And maybe I shouldn't have, and maybe that I should be crucified for it. Maybe I should be crucified for having an opinion online. But anyway, I said I was annoyed at the situation. And obviously you've probably seen my tweet and shit like that. I was just fucked off. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to tell people I'm fucked off. You know why? Because I am allowed, and I have every right to. I'm not going into like what happened on the post and stuff like that. But afterwards, the TOs caught wind of me being annoyed about it, so they came over. Well, one TO came over and tried to piece everything together. I'm really bad with names, but the judge that I spoke to at the time, well, they apologized for what happened and offered for me to file a formal complaint. And I was just like, I'm not like gonna like take this forward. I just appreciate you apologizing. I also later on spoke to the event organizer who runs LGT and Warhammer tournaments, and they also apologized and offered the same thing, and I do really appreciate that. And they offered some solutions for it, and I was just kind of like, it's already gone now. I just wanted to rant. I'm not bothered about chasing this up. But like the way they were handling the situation post situation was very good, and I did really appreciate that. And I want to make that a big statement of this whole situation, is that the situation that happened shouldn't have happened, and I don't know why it happened. I think it might have been a mixture of the TO was also tired, the TO didn't understand, or the TO didn't know that they had the authority or power to do what they can do. You know, I'm a TO. I'm not a perfect TO. And I've run loads of events, and I've made mistakes, and you've seen mistakes that I've done because some of them have been quite public. But I think it's okay for someone to, if they feel like I'm not doing a very good job, say that. And I don't think that's like out of the ordinary, or like that isn't allowed. I think that's totally fine. So I don't really know why that situation came up, and it shouldn't have happened. But the way that the event tried to rectify it, I was really, really happy with. I think that really resolved it for me, you know. But yeah, I was just annoyed, and I think that's fine. And then I had a lot of people coming out in support, which is really nice. And I had a couple of people who were also TOs come out and start insinuating that I was throwing someone under the bus for views and clicks. Where I didn't mention any names. You know, I've not said who this person was who walked away, but there was an issue. That is not a thing to do. And again, I think I'm well within my right to be annoyed about that situation. I think I'm well within my right at Europe's largest tournament, have a TO walk away from a situation is also very bad, especially when we all know that we had 5 judges at a table for 20 minutes after the round finishes and hadn't worked out a decision. And I was a bit pissed off about that. I don't know. I don't really know. But they apologized for it. So that was like the drama, you know. That was the drama. You've had it all now. So everyone's gonna leave now while I talk about my last 2 games. But my last 2 games were awesome. They were really, really good. So maybe it was a blessing in disguise. Be pissed off for 12 hours and then come back in and have a lovely Sunday with 2 fantastic gentlemen. The problem is even if without the time, if we both run out of time and then, because I didn't play my turn, I just moved on to objectives and then said, okay, I'm just going to end my game there and just score points the next 2 turns, and so are you. Yeah, it's not like I went, all right, yeah, now I've got 5 minutes, I'm going to shoot my entire army into your army that can't move. I just moved on to objectives and didn't bother scoring any secondaries. But, you know, the problem is at the time as well, there was just so many other issues happening in the game that I'd already called this person out on. And then I was just like, right, okay, I need a TO because I just need to be able to not have my opponent just play all the time and then me get done for overrunning. I think if we were 3-0 or 2-0 when we were both undefeated, I probably would have called another TO and not I would not back down, but I was just I've already lost. I don't care. So, what can you do? So that was shit anyway. It's a really shit situation. But as I said, the event tried to resolve it afterwards, which I was quite happy with, and I think they did a good job. I think there was 6 judges for 700 players, which is nowhere near enough in my opinion. And I think that was probably a problem, because you could say the TA didn't have enough time to wait around and watch my game when there was an issue, which is a valid argument, but there should be more judges. But yeah, these types of games happen, but it isn't the be all end all of competitive Warhammer, right? It does happen, and you hear about it a lot because a lot of people talk about these situations. You don't hear about all the good stuff because everyone you expect to have a good time, right? You expect to go and have a nice time at a tournament, you know, have 5 great games and try and do really well. You don't expect to run into a problem, and that's why you hear about it, because people are more likely to express their opinion about a problem rather than a nice thing. It's kind of like dice rolls is a good example. You will always remember that time you rolled all 1s, and you'll forget the time you roll all 6s. It's one of those things. It's you'll always remember the bad over the good, and you'll always talk about the bad over the good as well, because when you go and play Toy Soldiers for a weekend, you expect to have a good time, you know. That at the time I was annoyed because of that situation, and I was right to be annoyed. And as we said, the analogy, the Starbucks employee going to Costa, they're allowed to complain, so I am allowed to complain too. So we don't hear about good stuff because you're watching Hellstormwargaming. So there's a couple of issues, and they're the ones you're going to hear about because it does have high profile players are there. But you're not going to hear about problem games from people who aren't profile players or don't have social followings and stuff. But I think when you do have a following, you do have to kind of raise issues like this. And I think what annoyed me more about the situation was being told that I wasn't allowed to talk about the situation because I have a platform, which I don't think is fair either. Maybe I'm quite entitled in that opinion, and I'm ready to be told by you chat right now. I don't think it was fair that I was told that I couldn't talk about the situation because I have a platform. I don't think that's right. You have the very right to talk about bad sportsmanship needs to be called out. I agree. You know, it was bad sportsmanship. That's exactly what it was. And I think how it was handled at the time was bad. And I don't think that's unfair for me to say. When you're going to Europe's largest tournament, you'd expect things to be a little bit better. I was there as a customer, essentially. It's not like I've been invited down for free. It's not like they gave me a ticket, right? Like, I was there as a paying customer, essentially. And I think that's fine, you know? It sounds a bit Karen when you say out loud, but then, you know, like... It's like I'm saying, oh yeah, this one person in particular, here's their address. Go annoy them. But anyway, that was the Hellstorm Karen. Yep, Hellstorm Karen emote when. Get designing, let's go. And there's also been some good memes about it, which we'll have a look at now. It was great. Really, really good. There was another one as well. This one was quite funny as well. Well done, Magoo. Mikey's lost son. Mikey's first opponent in the LGT. Maybe he came back to bite me. Maybe. Who knows? Mikey's #1 enemy this weekend. He was my enemy. He screwed me. Because we talk about Warhammer and Wargaming for all the boatloads of cash and money in it. Yeah, let's stick to it. Like, let's talk about like a niche for clicks. But that's it. When I run out of content, just start some more controversy, right? This is the most elaborate excuse for a narrow Warhammer loss I've ever witnessed. Imagine. Well, that was either way, you know. Quite literally, the excuse was you're a cheat, and then it was just like, what if I elaborately come up with a TO running away, and a guy cheating and insinuating I was cheating just because I lost my 2 points.